Hello everyone, Gaza Mutkash, and I welcome you all to this session on visualization and reporting. So guys, let's have a look at the agenda for this session. The agenda for this session includes customizing Matplotlib charts and also let's say discussing custom Matplotlib charts. Likewise, even for Seaborn, though we do have the same agenda, customizing Seaborn charts, and we'll also look at custom Seaborn charts as well. On top of it, we'll look at how to implement annotations in the different Matplotlib and Seaborn charts wherever appropriate. So guys, so far till the previous sessions, we have discussed and covered multiple Matplotlib graphs and multiple Seaborn graphs and charts. So let's head to the Jupyter screen. So guys, over here we are in the Jupyter screen. So let's understand the concept of custom plots. So guys, when we are talking about custom plots, right? So custom plots in Matplotlib and Seaborn are essential for making the data visualizations clear, informative, and presentation ready. So there are two things when we are talking about custom plots. So there are two things that we'll be discussing. Let's say customizing plots. We shall be discussing customizing plots both for Matplotlib and Seaborn. And secondly, we'll also look at custom, let's say, creating customized chart, custom charts. All right, which we have not discussed so far. And again, this is let's say valid for both Matplotlib and Seaborn. Alright, so these are the two different things that we shall be focusing upon. So first we have to import the libraries. Over here I'm importing pandas, then I'm importing NumPy, I'm importing the matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, I'm also importing Seaborn as SNS, right? Import Seaborn as SNS. So pandas we have discussed is meant for data pre-processing, data cleansing. NumPy we are using for numerical computation, Matplotlib we are using for visualization, and even the Seaborn we are using for the visualization as well. All right, these are the two things that we are using for visualization. So this is NumPy and pandas. So guys, we have imported this. Next, we have to read the data set. We'll be reading the same data set. So जो data set हम read करेंगे, right, that is going to be again the students performance, students performance.csv, and this is df head. So guys, this is the data. Because we have a large let's say the column length is long, so maybe I can rename the columns. So what are the columns that I'm renaming? I'm renaming it to gender, then race, ethnicity, then parental level of education, then we have lunch, then we have test preparation course, then we have the math score, then we have the reading score, and then we have the writing score as well. All right, so ये हमारे columns हैं. We have gender, race, ethnicity, parental level of education, lunch, test preparation course, math, reading, and the writing score. All right, so columns हमने rename कर दिया. So now if I look at the data, this is what we have essentially. This is what we have. We have gender, race, ethnicity, parental level of education, lunch, test preparation course, math, reading, and writing. And till the previous session, we have also seen the shape. So what is the shape of this data frame? The shape that we are getting over here is what is the number of rows? The number of rows is 1000. And what is the number of columns? The number of columns that we have over here is 8. All right, so this is the data that we have. Now let's talk about creating custom Matplotlib charts, right? So this is not customizing the charts, rather we are talking about creating custom Matplotlib charts. So the first chart that I want to discuss is the donut chart. So far we have discussed how to create pie chart, right? Now let's say a donut chart is let's say way more visually appealing pie chart than compared to the normal pie chart. So it looks like the shape of that of a donut. So to implement this, suppose the problem statement here over here is represent count of race, ethnicity on a donut chart. All right, a donut chart में हमें इसको represent करना है. So how do we represent this? Now to represent this, okay, this would come over here. Now to represent this count of race, ethnicity on a donut chart, first of all we need to create a pie chart. So अगर हम race, ethnicity का value counts check करें, so these are the different groups and these are the values. So for group C it is 319, for group D it is 262, for group B it is 190, for group E 140, for group A 89. Now these values would be represented in percentage. So how would that look like? Because the total is 1000, right? The total is 1000, the percentage would be same. So simply means अगर हम यहाँ पे ये लिख दें normalize is equal to true, and maybe if I multiply this with 100. So just have a look, this is normalize is equal to true. So now we're getting the percentage, and if we multiply this with 100, so this is the percentage contribution, right? This is essentially the percentage contribution. So these are the original numbers, and because the total number of records is 1000, so the percentage contribution is quite obvious. All right, so this is the count and this is the percentage contribution. So I want to represent this on the donut chart. So how do we create one? So सबसे पहले I'll be creating the pie chart. So plt.py, I have to store these values in some variable. So let me call this a1, and for the time being let's say इसको हम हटाते हैं. I'll represent it over here. All right, I'm representing it over here. So this is a1, right? अब donut chart बनाने के लिए first I'll be creating pie chart. So a1 is there, so a1 dot values, and then if I mention the labels, so labels may I can mention a1 dot index. Labels may over here I'll mention a1 dot index. So this is a1 dot values, and then over here I've mentioned a1 dot index. So next I can mention the auto PCT. Auto PCT may I'll be writing 0.2f. Over here I'm writing after decimal I want 2 decimal places, and PCT distance where I need to place these values. Over here I'm setting it at 0.85 towards the border, towards the corner. So now if I show this plt.show, so as we can see we are we have obtained the pie chart, right? Maybe 0.8 would be sufficient. All right, these are the values. Now I want to create a donut. So for that I'll be creating a circle first. So let's call this center circle. All right, center circle may I'll be writing plt.circle, and circle I want to center it at 0 0. All right, and let's say the color is going to be white. All right, the foreground color is going to be white, and the center radius I'm setting it as 0.7. यहाँ पे the center radius that I'm setting is 0.7. So 0 0 is the starting point, 0.7 is the radius. So center is 0 0, and what is the radius? The radius is 0.7. So guys, currently we don't see the circle yet. All right, यहाँ पे अभी हमें circle नहीं दिख रहा. So first of all I need to fetch the figure. I need to get the current figure. So how to fetch the current figure? plt.gcf. GCF is get current figure. So current figure is the pie chart. Now what I'll be doing over here, I need to write figure dot, let's say GCA. GCA is get current axis, and then on top of it I can add the artist. Add artist. The artist that I need to add is center circle. Let's see. So guys, as we can see we have obtained these values. Now because it is extending, so maybe I can mention 1.1f. All right, and now let's make this 0.85. So guys, this is how we can create donut chart, and on top of it I can mention the title. So what is it representing? Percentage contribution of what? Percentage contribution of percentage of race ethnicity. All right, ये हमने यहाँ पे represent कर दिया. So this is the percentage contribution of race ethnicity. So we have group A, B, C, D and E. All right, this is how we can represent the donut chart. And what is GCA? GCA stands for get current axis. So this is done. Next, moving on, let's understand what is the concept of subplot. So subplot essentially, let's say, allows to represent different graphs in the, or let's say multiple graphs in the same chart region. तो इसको हम कैसे implement करेंगे? Let's see this in action. So if I were to implement subplot, right, I'll give you an example. Over here I need to represent let's say count of parental level of education on pie chart. All right, pie chart mein basically I want to represent the, or let's say on the bar chart, I want to represent on the bar chart, and let's say box plot of math score and box plot for the math score. तो इसको हम कैसे represent करेंगे? Let's see this. So guys, to represent this, what can be done? First of all, I'll be writing figure, then I'll be writing AX1, AX1, AX2. All right, these are the two different subplots that I'll be generating. So this would be plt.subplot, and plt.subplot ke andar over here I need to pass 1, 2. 1, 2 means 1 row, 2 columns, and then I can mention the figure size. So the figure size that I'm setting over here is the rows would be 1, the columns would be 2. All right, the rows would be 1, the columns would be 2, and the figure size over here, let's say I'm setting it as 12,5. Then over here I'm mentioning ax1 dot bar plot. All right, okay, I'll be representing the count plot. Count plot में हमें pass करना है this is going to be okay count of PLE on a bar chart, right? Parental level of education. So first I need to figure this out. I'm storing it in a variable df PLE dot value counts. All right, this is A2. So ये हमने एक variable में store कर लिया है. Now because we have large values, instead of this, let's go for race ethnicity only. ठीक है? Okay, let's go for maybe PLE, no issues. So we'll be representing it on the y-axis. So over here I've mentioned ax1 dot bar h. Bar h, x pe I'm writing a2 dot index, and y pe I'm writing a2 dot values. And ax1 dot set title, I can set the title as this is count of parental level of education. All right, so let me represent this. Let me just show this. All right, so bar h missing one width. Okay, x and y यहाँ पे mention नहीं करना. I can just mention it like this. Okay, this is a2 dot index, right? This would be a2 dot index, and clearly we can see the bar chart is obtained. Now for the second chart, I need box plot of this is box plot for math score, right? So df math, that's it. And इसको हम mention कर सकते हैं, this is box plot for the math score. So guys, अगर हम इसको represent करें, so as we can see in the same graph or the chart region, right, we are representing the count of parental level of education and box plot for the math score. So this is how we can customize this. AX1, AX2 represents the two different figure names. Now, how in let's say how do we represent the numbers in the Matplotlib? All right, if I were to proceed with the annotations in Matplotlib, how would I do that? So suppose I'm plotting a bar chart, right? So the bar chart that I'm plotting is A1. We have seen this is A1. So plt dot bar, over here I've mentioned a1 dot index and then a1 dot values, right? So we are representing it like this. So once we have obtained this, now I want to represent the numbers. To represent the numbers over here, I have to write it like this. For I in range, let's say length of maybe a1. All right, both values are same. So the function used over here is plt dot annotate. And in plt dot annotate xy, we have to pass the coordinates where we need to display the values, and then I have to pass the text. So the text that I wish to display is nothing but a1 dot values of I. All right, but the xy over here would include. So let me change this. Let's say x labels would be, x label को हम यहाँ पे mention कर सकते हैं. This is list range length of a1. So instead of a1 dot index, I'm representing x label. So currently if I just display this, just observe the values. Over here I'm getting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. अब 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 पे iteration is easy. all right, because I do have the coordinates to represent. So where do I need to represent 319? It has to be represented at 0 and 319, right? So this is where I'm using this. So in the x, I can mention x label I, and by axis में I can mention a1 dot values I. So just observe. So we do get to see the numbers, right? हमें यहाँ पे numbers देखने को मिल रहे हैं. So this is how we can represent the annotations. Y axis पे I can raise maybe with 2, and on the x axis I can subtract maybe 0.1. So now it looks much better. And हम x label set कर सकते हैं plt dot x label. So x label could be 0 to 350. All right, and I can mention the title. The title is count of, this is race ethnicity, right? This is count of race ethnicity with annotations. All right, so इसको हमने यहाँ पे represent कर दिया. This would be y label, y limit. This is y limit. So guys, as we can see, the numbers are represented over here. Isko maybe I can raise it up to 5. Yeah, so much better. And we can see the numbers. You want to change the color, I can change it like this. Edge color, I'm setting this as black. All right, इसको हमने यहाँ पे represent कर दिया. And if you want to change the color of the bars, maybe I can mention light green. So this is count of race ethnicity with annotations. Now it looks much better, right? But instead of these numbers, I want to represent the groups. So this is where plt dot x ticks comes into picture. So x label को हमें replace करना है with a1 dot index. So this is simply replaced. So now this is how we can represent the annotations on the bar chart. Now guys, moving forward, we do have custom Seaborn charts. So अगर हमें custom Seaborn charts पे work करना है, right? So let's look at a couple of charts. So one of the chart that we can look at is the facet grid. So what is the purpose of facet grid? Let's say, again, the way we have utilized the subplot, likewise we can say that facet grid, let's say, divide the charts into multiple regions based on the categories used. All right, I'll give you an example. So we don't have multiple categories, but let's say over here I do have, I'm creating, let's say, high score math. Over here I'm creating a function np.where, जहाँ पे भी maths का score, right? जहाँ पे भी math का score, what are the columns that we have? So we have df.columns. So we do have the math score, right? So जहाँ पे भी math का score, all right, math value is greater than df math dot mean. So I can mention high, otherwise low. So now if you have a look at the data frame, so we do have high score for math, right? So अब अगर हम इसे represent करें, now if I wish to represent this, how do we represent this? In the facet grid, let's see. So it allows to, let's say, allows to split charts into multiple regions based on the categories used. So clearly we do have two categories. We have gender, जिसमें we have male female. Likewise we have test preparation course where we have none and completed. So इनके base पे maybe for between math score and reading score, I can represent a scatter plot. So how do we proceed with this same? So let's create a variable. I'm calling it g, and in the g, okay, so I think I have to import Seaborn. Yes, I've imported it over here. Seaborn imported it. So इसके लिए हमें क्या करना है? Yeah, g dot I can mention g is equal to sns dot facet grid, and in the facet grid over here I'll be passing df, and I wish to split it based on gender and then based on lunch. Alright, gender and lunch के base पे suppose हमने यहाँ पे split किया, and g dot map, what is the chart that I wish to map? sns dot scatter plot. All right, and then over here I can mention math score and maybe reading score. All right, and g dot let's say figure dot subtitle. What are we representing? Math versus reading score based on gender and lunch. So clearly we know gender में दो categories हैं. I'll show you. Gender में अगर हम unique values देखें, so we do have two categories, and the same goes for lunch. So 2 into 2 means first chart would be for female, let's say standard, then female free reduced. Then the third chart would be male standard, and fourth would be male free reduced. So in a total of, we'll be creating 4 different charts. Alright, so अब यहाँ पे जो gender है, I'm calling this as column, and lunch को I'm setting this as rows. Alright, so आपको इतना set करना पड़ेगा. Let's run this. Okay, so as we can see, the values are getting overlapped, right? Values यहाँ पे overlap हो रही हैं. So I can mention plt dot show. Maybe title I can pass later. Just observe the chart. So guys, the first chart is representing where the lunch is standard and the gender is female. So column wise हमने gender लिया, right? So means along the y-axis the gender would be same. And maybe I can mention plt dot type layout. All right, इसका क्या purpose है? Type layout we are using over here to set so that the values don't intersect, right? अब यहाँ पे values intersect नहीं करेंगे. Let's get rid of this. So this is what we have. The first chart is representing where the lunch is standard and the gender is female. This is math versus reading score. On the x-axis we have math, on the y-axis we do have the reading score. Now in the second chart, from in the top to, let's say, left to right order, we have lunch as standard and the gender is male. Why is the lunch same over here? Because row mein the lunch would be same and columns mein the gender would be same. Alright, so this is the chart. Then the third one is where the lunch is free reduced and the gender is female. So this is the chart. Clearly all 4 charts represent positive correlation. So if the math score is increasing, the corresponding reading score is also increasing and vice versa. Alright, so guys, this is how we can represent this. And the fourth one is where the lunch is free reduced and the gender is male. So इस तरीके से हमने इसको represent किया है. Now maybe plt dot figure size में maybe I can mention 8 comma let's say if not 5 maybe 10. Alright, so यहाँ पे as we can see, this is how we can set the figure size as well. और भी कुछ properties हैं इसमें. So we can customize it further. So guys, this is how we have utilized this. Okay, we can set the margin titles as true. Alright, so now it's better. Now we are representing it in a better format. So this is gender male, gender female. Over here it's representing lunch standard and lunch free reduced. So it looks much better now. And we can get rid of this not required. Alright, so this is how we can proceed with the let's say facet grid. Now agar if I want to change the, let's say, Seaborn style charts, so I can write something like this: sns.style grid, maybe white grid. So the entire background would be white. Alright, with grids, because I've mentioned grid. Now I could have mentioned dark grid. So now observe the charts. We are getting the gray colored background, right? So these customizations are also available. Now proceeding with let's say, so this is the palette and the style customization. I can choose to proceed with the palette as well. Alright, next we have annotations in Seaborn. So Seaborn में अगर हमें graph को annotate करना है, so how do we do this? So over here, suppose this is my data frame, right? ये हमारे पास data frame है. Now for this data frame, I want to represent let's say count of PLE on a count plot with annotations. तो annotations के साथ हम इसको कैसे represent करेंगे, let's see. So first of all, sns dot count plot. Count plot के अंदर I can directly mention data is equal to df, and data df होने के बाद on the x axis I want to represent, x axis में यहाँ पे हमें क्या represent करना है, on the x axis I want to represent race ethnicity, that's it, and plt dot show. So guys, clearly we do get to see the bar count plot. अब इसमें अगर हमें values represent करनी है, right? So how do we represent them? Over here I can write, means I need to store this figure in ax, then ax dot bar label, this is meant for annotations, and what do I fill it with? Ax dot containers, containers 0. So at the 0th index of the containers we do get to see कि data points के numbers कितने हैं. I'll show you this. This is race ethnicity dot value counts. These are the numbers 319, 262, 190, 140 and 89. So guys, are we getting the same numbers? Yes, we are absolutely getting the same numbers. Now on top of this, this was just the annotation part. What if we do have grouped data? How do we perform the annotations then? So suppose I want to represent, let's say gender wise lunch count, right? So df dot group by, and maybe gender, and then we have lunch, and इसके basis पे I want to count the lunch. So this is what we have. So sns dot count plot. Count plot में over here I'm representing data is equal to df, x पे I'm considering gender, and hue में I'm considering lunch. Alright, and plt dot show. So this is the kind of graph that we obtain, right? अब इसमें अगर हमें let's say annotations represent करने हैं, so how do we represent them? ax dot bar label. अगर हमने bar label में ax dot, if I just write ax dot container 0, so I'll only get for let's say 329 and 316, but what about the other one? So for other one I can mention ax dot bar containers 2. So guys, this is how we can represent the annotations as far as Seaborn is concerned. Now there's one more thing. If I want to let's say sort these graphs, sort these bars, so वो भी option है हमारे पास. So this is the sorting part, right? I'll show you the sorting part as well. Sorting the bars. So bar sort करना है तो दो ही option है. We can sort this in ascending order or descending order. So how do we do this? Sort आप कैसे कर सकते हो? So sorting के लिए I'm using the same graph. But besides this, over here I can mention order is equal to df race ethnicity dot value counts dot race ethnicity dot value counts dot sort values. All right, we can sort it in ascending or descending. Suppose currently I'm going with ascending, so dot index. That's it. So now it is in the ascending order, right? The bars are in ascending order. If I want to represent them in descending order, so ascending is equal to false. This would be in descending order. So guys, now we have seen how to create custom charts, how to represent annotations in Matplotlib and Seaborn as well. And we have also seen how to sort Seaborn charts as well. So guys, that brings us to the end of this session. Let's switch to the PPT. So guys, as far as this session is concerned, we have discussed how to customize Matplotlib and Seaborn charts. How do we create customized Matplotlib and Seaborn charts as well? So we have seen how to implement chart annotations in both Matplotlib and Seaborn. So in the next session, we shall be exploring, let's say, how to import images and report into Excel and CSV using Matplotlib and Seaborn. Thank you.